Danny and Dave.
First thing, you two guys are looking to really address the issue of nerd culture. I mean, there's a lot of people, a whole bit of the internet, cyber culture, it's all very nerdy. You're trying to address that whole issue.
Yeah, because people don't think that there is such a thing as nerd culture. Well, you know, anyone who spent any time on the internet knows that there is such a thing. But then people then go on and try and deny it. People say, oh no, I just happen to be really into Star Trek and computers and God knows what else. But, you know, I'm not a nerd. I'm actually really cool and I go to nightclubs.
A lot of people, loads of really good things on the internet, and now as the kind of fashionable hype begins to pull away, like a tide away from, you know, that much about computers, what's a mouse? And it's not true. They're just denying loads of things that they found.
So somebody thinks they might be a nerd. I mean, how can they tell?
What are the really good signs? Science fiction, computers, just some sort of like absolutely, well, probably quite unusual obsession with any sort of field. Obsessions, I think, are the key.
If you've ever spent like 48 hours as a teenager or as a grown adult just concentrating on one particular thing, in your case I believe it was probably Williams Defender, the arcade game. In me it was the BBC Micro.
It's zoning out. It's getting into that frame of mind when suddenly you just lose track of everything else, and that's the classic nerd experience.
I like to think of nerds and geeks as the kind of Zen Buddhists of the modern age. You know,
do you think there are people who kind of deny their nerdiness? People who are really nerds that kind of hide it?
Oh, we see them all the time. Right. I mean, we actually specialise in putting people in touch with their inner nerd. In that they'll say, I just happen to work on a computer program. I'm a bit interested in this sort of stuff, but my main obsession is in collect 1950s. And we go, oh no, that's absolutely fine. But that's your inner nerd. You know, and don't just embrace it. Maybe take it home and have a game of Dungeons and Dragons or something.
So you're saying stand up, be proud, say you're nerd.
Exactly.
Does that come with sort of cultural expressions? Do you have a power phrase? I mean, with the Spice Girls, we're talking girl power. Is there nerd power?
Nerd power, but it's pronounced nerd.
Yeah, kind of like girls. Yeah.
That's quite hard.
The geeks will inherit the earth is always the one which we run on.
That's a terrible one. I personally use reality at 8 million polygons per second, but that's just me.
So if one of our viewers out there is sitting at home beginning to feel perhaps they have nerd tendencies, how do you think they should go about coming out as a nerd?
Right, we've said get on the net. Yeah, it's really cool, hasn't it? I mean, go to your local branch of Forbidden Planet or Games Workshop or somewhere like that. Or no, I mean, just do your own thing. Just follow your own obsession. That's what I'd argue.
Really, sit down and think.
You are your own nerd. You can't be anyone else's.
Think about what you're really interested in, and then take it to a ridiculous extent. Because in every other part of our culture, whether you're a sportsman or you're a musician,
or
anything
rowing
like
around the world or something like that.
If you take it extreme point, everyone admires you for it. And I think it's about time when people take extreme levels of computing, admired as a man who I don't know,
who climbs an Everest or one of those.
What about nerd spotting? I mean, is it possible to spot a nerd at 100 paces?
You've got some good examples.
How do I spot nerds? Often the body language is a bit of a giveaway. No, I mean, the classic thing, it comes back to the obsession. I don't know if you picked this up from me. Like, when you're doing a bit of a nerd test, throw out a few Star Trek, perhaps Babylon 5 if you're feeling adventurous or animated. See if the little face lights up and goes, yeah. And the funny thing is, did you ever see that episode where McCoy went mad and jumped back in time?
Through a giant donut. You see, protocol handshake. If you throw in something like, do you remember the 6502 microprocessor? No, just very simply like that. Something like that. And somebody begins
I have some good games on my Spectrum. Yeah, and like and suddenly there you are. You've opened up like a...
Do you find people suddenly just saying to you, oh my God, I suddenly realise what's been up all these years, I am a nerd.
I woke up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We both manage that. Like, people often do deny, because it's quite hard. One of the things about being a nerd is perhaps you're not quite as good at spotting those little social details, and so you don't understand that everyone else does think you're really odd, and you haven't twigged to that. But yeah, we're getting on. We're doing quite well.
Often it takes about 3/4 of an hour for people to really just give in and say I'm a nerd. Whether that's just to try and get away from us, we're not entirely sure.
Finally, what's your message to the nerds out there in TV land? What is your message to the nerds?
Speak forth to the nerd community.
Well, I think that basically the question is if you're not.
Well, and I think we'll Hello.
From Russia, looking for love. Victoria's on the net, helping her countrywomen escape to life in the West. They're back. Nerds and proud of it, Danny and Dave reveal their new internet obsessions. Plus, a year in the life of the net. Magic moments from 52 weeks of cybercafe.
Welcome back. On this show, we really like people who aren't ashamed of their fondness for the net. Here's a couple of self-confessed nerds to tell us about their latest online obsessions. It's Danny and Dave.
You found something called the Jennicam.
Right, who's going to talk about this?
This was your discovery.
I don't think it was.
I'll go suspiciously quiet at this stage.
And I'll get suspiciously defensive. Yes, the Jennicam is, you've probably had this described.
The basic idea is that, like, webcams...
Oh, perhaps you have had a look at it, Dave. Okay, far away.
I thought I'd say, I'm sticking to my theory here, is that webcams, like where you point a camera at, like, a fish tank or a Coke machine or just what's going on inside your house. Now, that's all right. That's quite interesting. That's a funny little obsessive
geeky,
hobby.
But, you know, not...
Yeah, not going too far. But young Jenny...
yeah. Imagine if you've got a camera that's fixed on yourself, your Jenny, and it's fixed in your bedroom, and it monitors you constantly, 24 hours a day. And this is available to anyone who wants to take a look. This is what Jenny's done, and that's pretty geeky.
She's a web enthusiast.
Yeah. What she hasn't realised is, and this is where we get uber geeky, that people are running IRC channels merely to announce when Jenny's come back into the room. So there are thousands of people who are just sitting there, running little hourly shifts, monitoring Jenny genuinely 24 hours a day.
This one was quite good, because in the early days...
Why is it quite good?
Well, you know, for research purposes...
It's a valuable tool.
What it is, in the early days it was black and white, and Jenny was a demure, you know, student, would sit there and work, or she would comb her hair.
I think our viewers are beginning to get the picture, yeah.
And nowadays, it's called, she's got a colour camera, and she puts on sadomasochistic bondage sex shows for the viewers.
Well, not 24 hours a day, and
because
it should be stressed. I mean, this is in the FAQ.
Yeah,
she doesn't make any money out of it. She's just doing it for a laugh.
95% of the time, she's clothed, and she's making phone calls, she's answering email, that sort of stuff. And you know, sometimes we all get a bit crazy on Friday.
Well, you know, she's just, I mean, with things you might normally do in your bedroom. You'd just be, you know, taking your clothes off and waving at your friends. The other big event, of course, of recent months was the tragic Heaven's Gate suicide, who were actually web programmers, and they designed a web page, and then all 39,
don't touch it.
All 39 of them, committed suicide under the impression that there was a spacecraft behind the Hale-Bopp comet. That we heard about recently, and it was going to take them off into outer space and so forth. And like, I mean, make of that belief, it's a religious belief, I don't think we should mock it, but make of that what you will. But they got an enormous number of hits, and not only that, people like the web, working through its grief in its own particular way, has done loads of sort of joke Heaven's Gate sites, because that's what the cult called themselves. And there's ones where like people have called themselves highersource.org, and their slogan is, "We kill ourselves working for you." And I think if you log on to that, it plays "Suicide is painless"
on a little MIDI file,
as a MIDI file. It's also provoked another like a craze of the "Ate My Balls" pages, which I think is I don't know if that's rude or not. I really don't know what's going on there. But if you study it, like if you just search for the phrase "Ain't my balls" once again, like I found this originally to do with Star Wars, where there's a Chewbacca "Ate my balls" page. There's a Yoda "Ate my balls" page where it's written in the style of Yoda talking. So he's going, your balls, eat them, I will. And I think the definition of an "Ate my balls" page means that you just get pictures of whoever it is you're talking about, and then you write that "ate my balls" underneath. So, I mean, not really a conspiracy, but I'd really like to know what that's about.
So finally, do you think you have to have an obsession to really appreciate the internet? Do you have to have one?
It's, no, but it certainly helps. And like, I mean, I think one of the really good things about the internet is that it brings all these people to the fore, whereas like previously, they wouldn't have been allowed any airtime at all. But I think, and people saying, well, this is really sad. But I think, and this is, I like to quote Sheryl Crow, who we didn't find a webpage for, I'm sure she's got one. Like, if it makes all these people happy, how can that be sad?
Yeah, yeah.
Imagine if you got a webpage, for instance, and you write that "ate my balls" page, means that you just get pictures of whoever it is you're talking about, and then you write that "ate my balls" underneath. So, I mean, not really a conspiracy, but I'd really like to know what that's about.
So finally, do you think you have to have an obsession to really appreciate the internet? Do you have to have one?
No, but it certainly helps. And like, I mean, I think the one of the really good things about the internet is that it brings all these people to the fore, whereas like previously, they wouldn't have been allowed any airtime at all. But I think, and people saying, well, this is really sad. But I think,
Now then, we've got a couple more internet sites. I found a place where you can play with snow in the sun.
And I've been learning a foreign language. But hey, what about that snow?
The Snowman 2000 construction set.
There's going to come a time when the internet is so cheap and so accessible that everyone is using it. When that happens, historians are going to look back at the pioneers of this new medium. They might just remember a little late-night TV show, one that demonstrated that people were using the internet in its early days for all sorts of things.
I mean, it's just another book. It's a great, huge book. It's an open book, constantly changing, with everybody plugged into it. Everybody's writing on it, and everybody's reading it.
I mean, what other piercings do you have? I mean, how far have you gone?
I've got a couple of genital